Welcome to the Empowered Entrepreneur Show. Discover your life's purpose, reprogram your mind for success, and attract an abundance of paying clients to your business. Now, here's your host, Tom Tenaglia.
Aloha, Empowered Entrepreneur. I am Tom Tenaglia, and you're listening to the Empowered Entrepreneur Show. And in this episode, I want to talk about your referral equation. Now, I had mentioned this briefly before in another episode. However, it dawned on me that if you want to create a fulfilling personal brand based on your unique purpose, that we need to revisit the referral equation a little bit. So when my clients come to me, they're often working one-on-one with other people, and they're usually looking for a way to get more clients or a way to get repeat business from their existing ones. And ultimately, I have to figure out what makes them unique so that they stand out in the marketplace in a positive way. And while some of my clients offer similar things from a service perspective, I'm still able to hone in on what it is that makes their business unique. Why would someone want to go to them versus anyone else in the industry? And basically who the right people are for each individual client. That effectively makes no one really competing with anyone else. And it allows each client of mine to stand out in a way that is positively unique. And the way that I do that is a combination of astrology and your referral equation. Now, with astrology, I look at the strengths of my client. I look at the types of clients that the astrology says the person should have, or at least resonate well with. And then I ask my client a series of questions. And so if you're working with me, I'm then able to ask you these questions to refine what type of client it is you want to attract, what your personal brand is, and what it is that you do for the client in the language of the client. Okay. So, I will often say that sales, advertising, marketing, and branding are all different, and yet they work together. This approach is a little bit of sales and marketing, but it's primarily on the branding side. It's a way of looking at the values of your business, what's important to you, the types of goals that you have for your clients, the outcomes that you help people achieve, and really what it is that your business stands for. And so that's what leads me to the referral equation, which is really an easy way to get referrals. And in helping my clients identify this, it actually helps. It would help you get into the mind of your potential clients. So, for example, people know me of doing astrology and entrepreneurship. So when somebody is awake to the idea of using astrology, then they think of me. They think of me. Sometimes it's just generic. It's okay. Here's a really good astrologer. Go call Tom. Other times it's even more specific. It's like, hey, I have a business problem. I need help. It's like, oh, come call Tom. He can just look at the chart and he'll tell you which way to go. Like, okay. Once they've woken up to the idea of using astrology, and even at times where somebody hasn't, if they talk to one of my clients, they might say, well, you've been having this problem for a while. You might want to call Tom. I know you're not into that astrology. They might even say you're not into that astrology crap. But it's not really crap. You should probably just give Tom a chance and he'll help you out. And then they're more likely to call. Oh, I don't know why I'm calling you, but this person told me that you're able to help. I pull up the chart and I just go, oh, you're having a problem with this. Yeah. Okay. Tell me about this other thing going on in your life. And you're like, what the hell? How did you know that? I'm like, it's right here. And they're related, even though that you don't think that they are. And if we fix one, you're going to fix the other. So which one do we want to fix? And yeah, it does work that way sometimes. And so anyway, so if somebody wants to implement things in their business, they want to implement marketing, they know of me as a marketer too, but they primarily know of me as an astrologer and the way that I apply astrology. And so yet if they're aware of marketing, if they know that I do marketing and they know that I do astrology and they recognize that I bring astrology into the marketing, then they're more likely to reach out. So once somebody understands that astrology exists and that there are problems in the astrology that they want help removing that are getting in the way of their success, then they come to me. Especially after they've tried everything else or they have one last chance, right? Like, we talked about a client of mine who had one last chance to close a deal, and he called me and he was able to close a deal. He waited until the last chance he had, though. This is interesting. But that's what happens. And so, okay, let's pivot this into the referral equation then. The referral equation helps you get into the mind of your ideal clients, and it helps so that the way I like to look at it is what it is that somebody would need to hear somebody else say to know to connect to you. So if somebody right now, if somebody has a life problem, yeah, they might think, okay, go call Tom. He can help with the astrology. If they have a business problem, they need help navigating, they come to me as well. But really, it's if they're aware of the idea that the astrology is the map. So if somebody said, hey, I'm trying to build a business, but I'm stuck, and that person happens to be awake to the idea of astrology, then my client may just say, hey, you need to talk to this guy, Tom, and they'll connect me. So I'm able to enter into the mind of these people to be the person that receives the referrals. So it's like, what does my client need to hear to know to refer somebody to me? Likewise, what do your clients need to hear to refer somebody to you? I like to ask people, how would I know somebody's a good referral for you? A lot of times people can't answer that question though. And here's what's interesting. Most of the time I'll ask that question when I'm working with a client to attract their ideal clients. Because it goes a little meta on the problem. And it looks at, well, if you can't tell me what I would need to hear in the external world to know if that client's a good fit for you, well, no wonder why you don't have your clients coming to you. Because if you don't know, I don't know, right? I don't usually say that, though. I just help them better unpack it. And, a couple of different ways to do that. You can look at what other clients have brought to you, what's common between them. And you can look at what's fulfilling to you. We can tie in the astrology. But the referral equation solves a lot of problems. It also starts attracting what your who your ideal clients are, because it's just, okay, there's a couple of key words that if you hear them, this person. Like I helped one person identify that transitions is the key word for her. The referral equation. It's like, hey, if somebody's going through a transition, in particular these types of transitions, then this is the person to talk to. There's another guy I know who helps men with masculine energy, just helps cultivate it and helps them produce a higher expression of it. That is good from a referral equation perspective, and the people who are going to use the referral equation need to understand that it's a masculine energy problem to be able to connect the dots. So if a client of mine knows, hey, this can be solved with the astrology, and then they hear a problem that they can link to, hey, this can be solved with astrology, then they come to, okay, you need to call Tom, right? So in the example of the transitions, right, if somebody's going through, say, hey, you know what? What's the transition that she helps people with? Oh, she helps people with people who, parents who are now empty nesters, whose kids went off to college and they now have a house themselves and they don't know what to do with their lives. Okay, well, now if I hear somebody say, oh my gosh, my last kid just went off to college, we're empty nesters, which I've heard, I don't know how many times. And then I can go, oh my gosh, how are you doing with that? And then they go, well, I don't know, like, we're making by, whatever. Oh, you know what? You should talk to this person, so-and-so. She helps parents who became empty nesters to kind of remember what it's like to, I mean, in my mind, my internal representation is like, it's almost like she helps people remember what it's like to be living before kids. And she does a lot more than that, though. So if I hear so if I can identify something is a transition, there's a few other types of transitions, right? Then I can identify that, hey, what they're telling me is a transition. Then, okay, boom, it's a transition. I need to send them to this person. So that's the link. It's kind of that equation there that connects the dots. If I hear something that I can make the link to, okay, it's a masculine energy problem. Oh, they need to talk to this other guy. If I can make the link, somebody can make the link to, hey, it's an astrology problem. You go get a solution from this astrologer Tom. Okay, cool. So it's like, it's a deeper understanding of it is you're actually helping the people that would be sending you clients to understand what are the types of problems that your thing is a solution for, that they could group together and say, this is actually that category that you work with. And then they can then send them to you. So that then helps, helps to continue to build a fulfilling business. Because ironically, the person who works on transitions, she originally accidentally was getting referrals for working with children. And it was because one time somebody said, hey, who works with children? And she said, I do. And that's all the referrals she was getting was just children referrals. If somebody needed that type of help, that type of work, and it was for a child, then they sent them to her. And she's like, well, I don't want to be working with children 24/7. And I'm like, well, tell me about the other clients that you worked with that you enjoy. And then we went from there, and we eventually, I'm like, well, you know what? I heard you told me what the problem was. You told me what the solution was. You told me what the problem was. You told me what the solution was. And I'm like, here's the common thread. I was like, you're helping them with transitions. And she's like, oh my gosh, that's true. And I'm like, yeah. I said, you helped mom. Well, you had helped new moms. So you helped people who had 0 kids to become a mom. That was one. You helped, I forget a few of the others. But I said, you're going to also, there's different kinds of transitions that you can then figure out, do you want to work with or not? And like, there's some people that help people that get out of the military transition back into civilian life. And I mean, the work that she does could certainly apply there too. I'm like, I don't think she named that one, but I'm like, you can figure out, okay, is that one you want to add into your list or not? Right. So you can figure out what type of transitions that you want to help people with. Maybe you like helping, maybe within the space of, hey, there's a new set of parents, they have a new kid, but maybe you don't want the transition of they have a kid and they got divorced. And so now you're helping each parent with with parenting a kid through a divorce. Maybe you do want to help with that. And so she has the opportunity to figure out what types of transitions she wants to work with. Okay, so it's just if I can identify, is it a transition? If I knew a list of transitions that she would work with, then my filter would be set up just for those. And then if I heard one of those, I would be like, okay, that's the one to send over to this person. Right? As of right now, though, it's more like I would ping the person and be like, hey, do you work on this type of transition? And then see if they say yes or no. They might say no, but this other person does. It's like, okay, cool. Then it becomes a referral for that other person, right? So, I mean, the idea of having this is important because it's really going to help what makes you unique. People know that I do astrology in a very tangible way. I do astrology to apply it, especially in business, relationships, probably the 2 biggest ones, and just general life problems. An interesting category is when they've tried everything else and nothing's worked, they come to me too. So depending, if people can make the leap that astrology and energy work and stuff like that will help them, then they send them my way when they've gotten to that critical mass point as well. So the idea then here is, what is that thing? Basically, the answer to the question, how would I know that somebody's a good referral for you? It is a question I ask my clients. It is a question that if you go, I don't know, then that's where you need to start. Because to get that personal brand together and to get that referral equation going, You have to be able to know how somebody else would know that they're a good client. And interestingly enough, too, the level of specificity on that one, because there are times where I'll hear them say, "Oh, well, anybody who blah, 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 blah." And I'm like, that might be too generic. I'm like, because what I'm looking for is what makes what they do different from everybody else. So if my client who does transitions just wanted to focus on new parents, but or just wanted to focus on parents, like if she just said, "Hey, if they're a parent, then they're a great client for me," I'm like, there's probably a bit more to that. Right? There's probably a bit more to that. How many kids? How long have they been parent? But if she goes, well, I work with people that are new parents. Well, new parents within what time period? And she's like, well, I work with parents who are struggling to go from no kids to one kid, or no kids to twins, or no kids to, more than two kids, whatever. They're struggling to make that entry into parenthood. Like, oh, well, now I know what I'm looking for, right? It's something tangible. I could make a movie out of it, right? The litmus test in copywriting, can I film it? If I can film somebody going from, no kids to one kid, well, yeah, I can film that. I'm like, okay, passes that test. Can I film somebody who's a parent? Sure. But I'm not filming the thing that tells me it's a problem. I need to be able to film the thing that tells me it's a problem for them. So, I can film, we can film lots of different things. We have to find a way to make it tangible. So sometimes people, you go, well, how do I know the client's right for me? Oh, anybody could use this. No, that might be true, but it's probably not true. Because even people that sell premium water, like, well, everybody drinks water, so therefore everybody can use this. And that is just not realistic. What is the motivating factor behind premium water, specifically your brand, that I would want to pay attention to be a good referral for you? Right? So, because if they don't know to make that leap, right? If they don't know that thing can solve their problem, then they're not going to make that leap. Because I could say astrology can help everyone because everybody has a chart. I mean, let's be real, right? But really, and while that's true, I would never market that way. I would say, here's the way that I like to apply astrology. Here are the problems that my application of astrology solves. If you hear any of these problems come up, send them my way. And that is much more realistic and even much more profitable. So once we've identified what makes that equation, then I want to look at the chart and figure out what are the problems in the chart that could prevent this equation from actually occurring. And then if we're taking the engagement further with a one-on-one client, that's when we get into the Reprogram Your Mind weekend and some of the other things that I do to really unlock the energy in the chart, to get the connection going between them and their ideal clients, and being able to put that energy out there so that their clients show up. So if this is something that, if anything in this episode caught your attention, or if you have any questions about it, or if you want to work together to help unpack what your referral equation is, then send me an email, support@empoweredentrepreneurshow.com, support@empoweredentrepreneurshow.com, and we can set up some time to hop on a call and talk about it. It is something that you definitely want to have thought through, because it really helps focus the energy for your business. And it is okay. One last thing on this. It is okay to have a referral equation that then turns into kind of like subcategories. So if there's 3 or 4 transitions that my client's going to help with, she may only talk about the transition that the person is going through as being the thing that she helps with. So if somebody says, you know what, I went from, I just became a new mom, blah, 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 blah. And she goes, you know what? Say, well, that's actually what I do. I help new moms make that transition from no kids into motherhood. She might even leave out the, hey, I help I help teenagers transition from living at home to living in college, right? She might just leave that one out. It's irrelevant, but there's still transition. So she can bring up the thing that matters in that situation. So if somebody brings me a problem that I know can be solved with astrology, I'll talk about how astrology solves that particular problem, or how my Reprogram Your Mind weekend solves that particular problem. It's directly applied to the problem at hand, which is why knowing what those problems are is important, because what you do and the result the client gets are two different things. We talked about this in last week's episode. Okay, so again, if you want to dive further into this, see how this applies to your business, want help one-on-one with it, whatever the case may be, send me an email, support@empoweredentrepreneurshow.com, support@empoweredentrepreneurshow.com. And with that, aloha, ahui ho. I'll talk with you again soon. Take care.
Thank you for listening to the Empowered Entrepreneur Show.